If you live in the Arctic tundra, very clearly you need a good set of winter tires on your next car. But what about the rest of us? Today I'm out here in Steamboat Springs, Colorado, braving -5-degree temperatures to talk about two tires that you should definitely keep in mind. Over here we have the latest Blizzak winter tire. This is one of the ultimate snow tires available in the United States. And over here we have an interesting new crop of all-season tires, one that is more focused on snow performance than all-season tires have generally been in the past. Now, although I'm talking about these two specific tires in this video, really a lot of this applies to whatever your next tire purchase is going to be. And full disclaimer, Bridgestone paid for me to come out here to Steamboat Springs, Colorado, but I only agreed to it because I do love Blizzaks. I have driven these in Sweden in the Arctic Circle. They're incredible tires, and independent research also bears them out. So in this video, I'm not going to be talking about comparisons between the Blizzak and anything else, or this tire and anything else. If you want that kind of comparison, I would suggest you head over to TireRack.com. This video is not sponsored by them. I just happen to love the way they test tires. You can do a lot of research for tires over there at their website. With that out of the way, let's dive into what kind of tires you should be looking at for your next vehicle. First, let's talk about the general types of tires that are available on the market right now. Studded tires are still available in limited areas, but a lot of jurisdictions aren't keen on studded tires anymore because they do damage the road. And that's why this crop of studless dedicated winter tires were developed. These have excellent grip. It's not quite where you might see a studded tire that you might be familiar with in Northern Europe or certain areas like that, but the grip is absolutely incredible. And in many areas of the United States, Canada, Japan, etc., you are not allowed to use studs, so this is the premium winter tire for you. It's going to give you the best grip possible on snow, ice, etc. But a tidbit that a lot of people don't consider is that even if you are not driving on an icy surface like I'm on right now, grip will be better with this particular tire than a summer tire or most all-season tires when the weather drops below freezing. So the colder it gets, the better this tire is going to grip even on dry pavement. So if you're in an area that routinely gets very cold but does not see a lot of snow, you're probably still going to want to consider something along the lines of this Blizzak tire, or at least an all-weather tire. That is the next category we should talk about: all-weather tire. All-weather tires, like dedicated winter tires like this, have the snowflake icon on them. That means that they're suitable for driving in areas that require that level of winter traction. This is beyond mud plus snow. M+S tires, as they've been known in the United States for a long time, are really the ultimate compromise. They give you okay on-road handling in the summer, and they give you okay-ish ice and snow traction in the winter, but they're not really optimized for either setup. And it's a very generic blanket statement. M+S is applied to all sorts of tires. They're very inexpensive tires that, will do some level of mud and some level of snow that a regular tire wouldn't. And then you get towards dedicated tires like these that are really more into that level of performance. The tire category that has the most entries and honestly the most confusion associated with it is the all-season tire. These are Bridgestone Alenza all-season tires. They do not wear the Alpine icon, the little snowflake icon there, but they are more snow and ice focused than the average all-season tire. There are competitive tires from Continental and from Michelin that are just about as good as these tires as well, so which tire fits your particular use case will depend on the general blend of attributes that you're interested in. And again, I suggest you go over there to Tire Rack and take a look at some of their reviews, because one tire might excel at dry grip, the other one might excel at wet grip, the other one might excel at snow grip, and they're all three excellent options in this small end of the all-season tire segment. But there are a ton of other all-season tires out there, some that are more sports-focused. There are high-performance summer all-season tires, basically summer-focused all-season tires, whatever you want to call them. They're focused on grip, on dry tarmac, not on snow and ice. The main reason you might want to select a tire like this over an all-weather tire or a winter tire is if you plan on keeping the same tire on your vehicle all year round. Good example for this tire would be, say you live in Sacramento, California, and you routinely go up to Tahoe in the winter. This is the kind of tire you're probably going to want, because by the time you're going to need something more aggressive for Tahoe, Interstate 80 is logically shut down, and these are going to be vastly superior to the average all-season tire out there. Now, if you lived in Tahoe, then I would suggest an all-weather tire or a true winter tire. All-weather tires are a bit of a compromise in a different direction, and most Americans aren't terribly familiar with that category. All-weather tires are the winter tire you get to keep on your car all year round, rather than an all-year tire that you get to keep on in the winter. And there's definitely a distinction. You're going to give up on-road handling ability, generally speaking, in the summer, and tire tread life most likely if you choose an all-weather tire. Something like this is going to give you a better balance all the way around. So again, if you live in an area where it is cool, but not necessarily cold and frozen all the time, but you regularly visit the cold, you regularly come up to ski, things like that, this is going to be an excellent tire. Now let's talk about what makes a winter tire different, especially versus the average all-season tire. The construction of this winter tire is very focused on handling snow and ice, but also, again, colder weather. And the colder weather is why we have different rubber compounds in an all-weather tire, in a summer tire, in a winter tire, and an all-season tire. Every rubber compound is focused on the mission for that specific use case, whether it's heavy load applications, high-speed operation, summer track driving, or winter operation like this tire right here. The amount of silica that's used in the tire, the percentages of various kinds of rubbers that are used in the tire, etc., all that factors into its mission. What is appropriate for the temperature range, the speed that the tire is going to be spinning, and what it's going to be going through. Generally speaking, the compounds that are used on a winter tire like this remain more flexible at lower temperatures than a summer tire, for instance, in the same cold weather. But also, the tread pattern is very different as well. A lot of people don't realize this, but interestingly, when you're talking about a snow tire like this, you actually want snow to pack into the treads on the tire. Because as you may remember from your snowball making or snowman making lessons as a child, snow bonds to snow pretty well. But snow doesn't stick to other surfaces quite as well, which is why you slip and slide on the snow and on the ice. So by getting the tire treads here to actually hold snow in them, you can improve traction on those snowy surfaces. This is very different from a mud tire, where a mud tire needs to eject the mud. You don't want the mud in there. You actually need the mud to be removed from the treads in order to progress. The other thing you'll notice is that if you zoom in really close on this tire, we have what are called sipes. It's these little zigzags on the surface of the tire. And a dedicated winter tire like this has more siping than we find in a regular all-season tire, and they go all kinds of crazy directions as well. The way the sipes cut apart the individual tread block and the resulting shape and profile as it contacts with snow and ice gives you more grip on that surface. You can sort of think of a figure skater skating across the ice, where you get a little bit more traction going across the ice rather than simply gliding along it. And that's why all these sipes are in different directions. They don't simply run the same direction as you might see in some all-season tires. This gives you better lateral support, better traction in braking, in handling, etc. on those slipperier surfaces. Let's contrast that design with these Bridgestone Alenzas on this red MDX. The first thing you'll notice is that this tread pattern is not directional, and it is on the Blizzaks. Now, not all snow tires, all winter tires are directional. The Blizzaks happen to be because it does aid in certain tread pattern designs and the way that it's going to eject slush and water that you will also experience in the winter out from the tread area, which you definitely don't want. You want snow to pack in the tire, you don't want water to pack in the tire. So there's definitely a balance. The other thing you'll notice is the sipe design here. It definitely has sipes, but this outer tread block does not have the same size or style of sipes. It has these very large channels here for water evacuation, but not the ziggy-zaggy sort of sipes that you found on that other tire. We then have tread blocks right here in the middle, 3 sets of tread blocks in the middle that do have sipes, but they're very different as well. Their pattern is a little bit more open, they don't lock together quite as much, and importantly, there are not as many of them. There are pros and cons to every tire design, and the downside for having the kind of sipes and the number of sipes that we find over there on that Blizzak versus this Alenza tire right here is that if you're out on the open highway trying to drive more sportily, say you want to do some autocrossing, that tire is not going to be as well suited. Those blocks are not going to be as firm, they're not going to hold together quite as well, there's so many of them, and the blocks are effectively smaller that even though the sipes are designed to try and make that tread block act as one block over here, it's still not going to be as stable. So the handling is not going to be quite as precise when you're out there driving the car harder and you're not on a surface like this. Now let's move on to the snow course. I was really happy that Acura and Bridgestone teamed up together to provide identical cars, one with Blizzaks on it and one with the Alenza all-season tire on it, so we could see how they compare and contrast in the same course at the same time. To be perfectly honest, the course wasn't the most challenging course that I've ever been on, but it really does highlight how much better a winter tire is. Now, Bridgestone says that their mission here was to show how good the all-season tire can be, but my personal takeaway is that if you want the optimum in snow traction, you're still going to want the winter tire. Yes, the Alenza did very well in these situations, not as well as the Bridgestone Blizzak, but it does pretty well. You'll definitely notice that the vehicle slides around, launches aren't quite as good, braking distances are definitely a decent amount longer. I was able to sneak away an Acura MDX with the Blizzaks and an Acura MDX with the all-season tires on it, and some trusty people here from Bridgestone to help me do a side-by-side braking test. The video shots weren't the best in the world here, but you could easily see that the all-season tire in these same situations took at least an extra car length to stop from about 25 miles an hour. But to be honest, that's a pretty good showing for an all-season tire. The average all-season tire, according to a lot of independent metrics and tests over at TireRack.com, generally indicate that the average all-season tire should take 50 to 100% longer to stop the vehicle in many of these situations than the winter tire. Now, Bridgestone would like you to know that there are many advantages to having an all-season tire the rest of the year, aside from the fact that you don't have to swap the tire. It's when you're on dry pavement above freezing temperatures, it's going to handle better, it's going to feel more secure, it's going to feel more stable. So again, if you're looking for that tire to go occasionally to the ski resort in, or if you live in an area that gets winter weather sometimes, but not regularly, like for instance Dallas lately, you might want to get something like this all-season tire or some of the tires from the competition. Again, if you want to know tire specifications and tire competitive tests, I suggest going over to TireRack.com. They have a ton of data on that. But in their independent data, the Blizzaks do well, and of course the Alenzas do well also. Before I close the video, here's a clip of the NSX playing on the snow course. I'm not entirely clear why Acura decided to allow Bridgestone to put an NSX on the course with all-season tires on it, but again, Bridgestone really wants you to think of these as some of the most snow-capable all-season tires available in the North American market. If for some reason you wanted to snowcross your NSX, these are the tires that you could theoretically do that with. Of course, if you didn't mind some body damage, accidentally getting a little bit sideways. It is definitely lively. It is definitely still squirrely out here on the snow, but I drove it and it was not as crazy as I thought it would be. Here's the takeaway that I hope you get from this video. If you live in an area of the country that gets true winter weather, I hope you put as much thought into the tires that are on your vehicle as to the vehicle that you bought in the first place. For instance, this Acura MDX has a great super handling all-wheel drive system on it. It is one of my favorite all-wheel drive systems on a transverse engine vehicle. It has that true torque vectoring axle in the rear that's a ton of fun, but it doesn't mean anything at all if you don't have the right tires for the occasion. If you were out here in summer tires, you probably wouldn't even have made it here because it's actually quite an elevation from the road to the place that I'm filming this video. And if you had the cheapest all-season tires you could find, if you suddenly decided, hey, I bought a $50,000 car, but I want to go to Costco and I want to get the manager's special and pay 50 bucks per tire on my car, they should be good enough. You'll be amazed how much you are giving up. You'll be giving up dry performance, you'll be giving up wet performance, and you'll be giving up winter performance. So I urge anybody out there, especially owners of luxury vehicles or high-performance vehicles, think about that tire purchase the next time you do it. And again, I recommend going over to TireRack.com. This video is no way sponsored by them in any shape or form. That's just the resource that I tend to use when I'm doing my own tire shopping. And whether you get something like a Blizzak here or a competitive high-performance winter tire, you're going to be in a better position than if you had simply bought the cheapest all-season tire out there. And again, depending on the area of the country you live in, one of these new generation of high winter performance, I guess I should say, all-season tires, because it's not a summer-focused tire, it's a winter performance-oriented all-season tire. That could be an excellent option for a wider variety of Americans as well. And if you're on the fence between something like that tire and this Blizzak here, I would strongly recommend you went this direction. If you live in an area of the country where winter tires are the norm, most tire shops will winter the tires for you, so you don't have to store them in your garage. I would recommend that level of investment because it's going to mean the difference between stopping for that school bus or running over Susie as she's exiting the school bus. There can be a lot of difference in stopping distance even when the roads are not icy and not snowy. That's something that a lot of people mistake. So this tire, for instance, compared to a bargain basement all-season tire, it's going to stop much, much more rapidly on dry pavement, on wet pavement when the temperatures are lower. Of course, in the interests of tire safety, when those temperatures warm up in the spring, it's definitely important to swap those tires back out for temperature-appropriate tires at that time of year. Let me know what you think about all that down there in the comment section below, and let me know if you'd be interested in more video content like this, what you liked, what you didn't like, etc. I'd love to hear down there in the comment section below. As always, you can find me over at facebook.com/AlexNautos, Instagram, Twitter, all those other social places. Check out the EV Buyer's Guide channel as well, and of course, AlexNautos.com for all of your news, reviews, and more. I'll see all of you later.